Hi there everybody, I'm Bernie Tormey and I'm here to answer yet more of the Q&A, the questions that you pledgers have sent to me. So here we go. Okay, I have questions here from Colin Shayler. He asks a lot of questions. The first is, how have your musical influences changed over time? Well, I'm not really sure that they have. The people who I liked at the beginning I still like. The people who turned me on to music I still like, and I suppose I've added to it over the years as you hit on new people, or new stuff that you like. But I've always held on to stuff like Hendrix's Are You Experienced, Hey Joe, all of that period. The Yardbirds with Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, the Beano album, the Blues Breakers album, incredibly important to me. And stuff, from all of that period, Bob Dylan and the Beatles and the Stones and all of that. I have added an awful lot to it. I suppose I came on people like John Coltrane and Miles Davis later on. Folk things, but Jans, John Renburn, who's just sadly passed away. I suppose that my favourite electric guitar players would still be that initial group. There is others, Rory, Gary Moore, B.B. King, Freddie King, who basically people like Clapton actually turned me on to. Peter Green, obviously, was incredibly important. Well, I suppose that my influences have broadened, even though they probably were fairly broad initially anyway. Being Irish, I had an awful lot of folk around me, and that was always important. So, thanks for that, Colin. Colin Shayler's second question is, given a totally free choice, no limits, which musicians would you like to play with? An awful lot of them I have played with. Ian Pace. I'd have liked to have played with John Bonham, Mitch Mitchell. You notice an awful lot of them are drummers, because as a guitar player, I suppose drummers are incredibly important to me, because I kind of view the guitar as a rhythm instrument, basically, that crosses into lead, into having a solo voice of its own. Only it is a heart rhythm instrument. There'd be tons of others. Mickey Hopkins, Rory, Keith Richards, Hendrix, obviously. But I don't, in terms of like working, I've always been happy with all the people that I have worked with, because if the band gels and if there is a chemistry there, I think that that's far more important than saying, oh, it'd be great to play with Ginger Baker, whoever. Because an awful lot of the time, I don't think the times I have played with heroes, there hasn't been a great amount of chemistry there. So you to me, the chemistry thing and playing it as a band is more important than, oh, you know, he's a really fantastic player, I want to play with him. So, yeah, but lots of people I'd liked to jam with. Gary Moore too, you know, I'd have liked not to be now. I think all of the people that I would probably have really enjoyed having a jam with are all dead now, so on the other side maybe. Thank you, folks. The next question: what musical directions are you going to take with the 2015 album? Probably pretty much the same as I take on every other album, you know, tons of guitars. I kind of tend to take an eclectic choice of types of song because one of my strengths and weaknesses is that I'm not strictly a session type player. I have a style and I tend to approach things in my style. So even if I play a country track, it still sounds like me. And that means I've always been able to kind of take a fairly broad approach to the types of things I do, because after I play them they all sound the bloody same anyway. Noisy rock and roll, you know. That's the truth of it. Thanks. Colin Shayler again. How many questions have you got, Colin? You have, I can count 8 actually, this is number 4. You have worked with a number of very good musicians in the past. For example, Mr. McCoy, Mr. Towns, who I saw last night, and Ian, the drummer, whose third name I cannot remember due to the early onset of old age. It's worse than that, Colin. His name was Mick, and his second name was Underwood. Is there any chance of you working with them again on this album? Yeah, there's always a chance. It's unlikely that it'd be Mick or John, because Mick basically has his own thing, and I tend, as I said, to approach projects as a band rather than as, you know, a solo album in the sense of dragging people in, because I really don't think that hangs an awful lot of the time. Colin, yeah, if there is a keyboard part that needs a competent player as opposed to me on, yeah, I'll ask him, you know, and he'll probably say, you know, that would be £2 million quid, please. But yeah, it's always a possibility if, you know, accidents happen. So thank you, interesting question. But by the way, you know, I've been blessed in my life and have played with lots and lots and lots of brilliant players. Phil Spalding, Chris, who's on the album, Chris, who's on the album, Chris Heilman, and they all have kind of different strengths. And Annie and Harris, Simon Jeffrey on drums in the past. I've had some, you know, Tommy Aldridge, Rudy Sarzo, Paul Hammond. I mean, I've just had like an endless amount of absolutely fantastic people I've played with, almost all of whom I've learnt an incredible amount of, you know. Don Airy. So, you know, for me to single out any of them, and, you know, particularly the Gillan lineup, you know, which at that point in time had an enormous amount of chemistry, inter-band chemistry, both good and bad. That isn't, you know, the only example of that. Paul Hammond, Vincent and Crane, great to play with. I mean, lots of people. So it isn't just that group of people who are the best. That they're all, to me, the best. Thank you. And Colin Shayler's next question: what are your views on the Gibson ES335 and ES355? I don't have them, but I adore them. I think they are such nice sounding guitars, and they look so beautiful. I mean, from Chuck Berry to B.B. King to Freddie King, they just have that absolutely stunning, clean sound. Well, Freddie, of course, had a bit of dirt on it, but lots of people, Alvin Lee, I mean, they're just ace. I mean, they have a real identity. To me, they are a more interesting guitar than, say, a Les Paul. But even though half of the universe appears to play Les Pauls, I think there are very few people who have made an identity on a Les Paul. Les Paul obviously did. Jeff Beck early on, and Clapton early on, but Peter Green and Gary, but they are not. They don't have a kind of a different sound in the way a 335 or a 355 has. I'd if it was up to me in terms of blues or anything like that, they're the guitars to go for, in my humble opinion. Thank you. Okay, Colin's next question, number 6. You're pushing it a bit here, Colin. What gauge string do you prefer? Well, now that's an interesting thing. I started off just like everyone else, I suppose, on 8s and 9s. I can't play them at all now. I use basically 11s. They are Ernie Ball Power Slinky 11s. So you're kind of going from, I don't even know the exact gauges, to be honest. It begins on an 11, and I think it ends up on a 52. Yeah, if you hang on, I'll check on the gauges. So hold on, I'll be back in a minute. Talk among yourselves. Hi, I'm back again. Well, as it turns out, I'm talking complete bollocks. It begins at 11. It's 11, 14, 18, 28, 38, and ends on 48. So, yeah. Thank you. Next question from Colin Shayler, and this is a biggie. Will Mr. Ernie Orme appear on the new album? It's been pretty difficult. We've been trying to negotiate to get Ernie Orme there. He's a bit of a prima donna. He won't actually talk to us. His manager has been saying to us that we need literally millions